We are here. I am here. I just sneezed my hair into a frizzy mess. There. Hopefully it stays in place. There's a reason why I wear a cap. The frizziness of my hair being in Bellingham just knows no ends. And I don't like to put oils in it. I hate putting oils in my hair. I'm also like really fatigued today. I actually fell into a wall earlier. I'm known for that. I'll fall into a wall. I'm the person who you'll find that's asleep standing up in the grocery store. Like, are you okay? John Cena, you can't see me. Yeah, I'm that person. So let's get through this. Because today's still technically Tuesday. And this is the day where the players aren't in the office and getting ready. They're at home resting, which is basically what I was doing. And it's the day that the coaches are in crunch time, which I didn't have any opportunity really to do, but that's okay because apparently I actually know a lot about this Eagles team. So before we really get into it, thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe. It really help out the channel. And welcome to First Kick Seahawks, where we try to prepare for the first kick of everything. You never really know what happens after the first kick, but you know that there's certain rhythms to everything that we do. When you wake up in the morning, there's a natural rhythm you would like to establish, and if you don't have any rhythm, when chaos comes at you or something unexpected comes at you, like, hey, Camden, you just fell into a wall earlier and you need to rest because your body is trembling from fibromyalgia. Sometimes you just need to go with the rhythm that you have and take life punches as you go along with it. And so, yeah, the Seahawks have lost to the Rams, and they've lost to the 49ers twice, and they lost to the Cowboys. But 3 of those games, our starting quarterback was injured, and we had Drew Lock play in 2 of those games. And in one of those games, our team put up 30 points when our quarterback was healthy. So we don't know if our quarterback is going to be healthy against the Eagles. Sounds like he tweaked his groin. Maybe not pulled his groin, but tweaked his groin. Why that's so important is you don't really throw with your arm. You throw with your legs. And if you know about a catapult, right, or a javelin thrower, it's all about your stance and it's about your hips and angling yourself and using the ground. And if you're throwing with your arm, you're going to hurt your arm. Because your arm really doesn't have that much strength. It's used for gripping. And then you use your legs to really propel your body. And that's how you get all that angle. And so Geno Smith's, when he hurt his arm, yeah, he was still able to deliver the ball because he was able to really twerk his legs in there to make up for it. It was a matter of angle and pain tolerance. Unless he wants to bullet it in which case that often does involve using a little twerk with your arm, but he wasn't really doing that. But if you can't kick off with your legs, you need to use your groin for that. That's where a lot of your center power comes from, is the inner side of your pelvic floor. So you can't kick off. So if we have Drew Lock starting against the Eagles, that might be in the last 5 games, we will have Drew Lock in 3 of them. So how are we going to do? Because the patterns we would like to establish or with Geno, but that's not always how it goes. Sometimes you try to establish the kick and you end up falling into a fucking wall, which is what happened to me today. I've also been known to fall in the tub too. That's never fun. So let's maybe have some hope. And part of that is the coach's responsibility today. How do we set up this team for success? We saw some good things from Drew Lock. We saw some good things from the offense against a good 49ers team. We also saw some good things from the offense when Geno Smith was in there against a good Cowboys team. And currently the Eagles are not necessarily struggling. They've been playing some really good teams too, the 49ers and the Cowboys back to back. Funny, we just had to do the same thing too. They're in the same exact situation we're in, except they're a healthy team and we're not. And just like us, they're in a get-right game situation. Now, unlike us, they need to get right so that they can get back into a first seed situation. Because currently, I think the 49ers have that over the Eagles and the Cowboys. But the Cowboys also lead the Eagles over the division now. So the Eagles need to beat us so that they can compete for that seed and for the head of the division. They don't want a wild card game because then they'd have to go into Dallas. And we've all seen how good Dallas plays in Dallas. But also, how good are they really? I mean, they have played these really juggernaut teams back to back. But how bad are we really? Because we just played these juggernaut teams back to back to back. 3 games in a row. And then the game before that, we played our rivals, the McVay Rams, who almost always beat us. We were doing well until Geno got hurt. And Drew Lock came in and looked horrible. Not necessarily the reason we lost, but that's kind of when the momentum went into the toilet. So we have to acknowledge that. So I want to talk about, because it's coaching day. This isn't necessarily about the players. This is about what the coaches are going to do. This is about their tendencies. This is what's going to get things kicked off for Wednesday, which is when the players come back tomorrow. In about an hour and a half and 5 minutes for me. They're going to come back tomorrow and they're going to have this great game plan set up by the coaches. I say great game plan because I'm hopeful, even though my take on Shane Waldron and company. I don't think they've been setting the players up for success. And I also think that the players on the defensive side mostly have not been executing well. They haven't been playing good fundamental football. But maybe they'll play good fundamental football against the Eagles. So let's roll with that, right? It's a new week. Let's look to the future. So which do we want to talk about first? We want to talk about this great Eagles offense, or do we want to talk about the lesser spoken about Eagles defense? Well, I feel like the more exciting subject is to talk about the Eagles offense. But oftentimes I like to start on a thread of common heritage. How does this team relate to what we know? And so like with the 49ers defense, when we first went over it, it was Saleh, right? And how he's related to Pete Carroll. And when we go over McVay, we always bring up Shane Waldron right now and Andy Dickerson, how it relates to Jeff Fisher and Bill Belichick. And then I always bring up Brett Favre in Green Bay, right? I always try to make all these coaching connections and how it relates. Because heritage in the NFL is really important. Knowledge being passed on from one mind to another. What do you do with this knowledge? How does it spread to the players and the coaches underneath these coaches that are typically no names until they become names, and we don't really know who they are. But some teams like us, we know, hey, Aaron Curry's on our roster, and so is Deshaun Shedd. But nobody else knows that Aaron Curry and Deshaun Shedd are on our team coaching. Who are those guys getting taught by? Well, here's a name on the defensive coordinator position for the Eagles that you might be familiar with. It's Sean Desai. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you not familiar with Sean Desai? Well, let me give you a little reminder. He was not on the Seahawks coaching staff that long, but just last year, he was brought in as the assistant head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Sean Desai. He was brought in by the request of Clint Hurt with Carl Scott because he was brought in to introduce the Vic Fangio defense. He and Carl Scott came from the Bears. I think Carl Scott was from the Bears. I don't think he was still in Alabama. And Clint Hurt was like, yeah, I'm going to run the defense. I want him here to help me design this defense with Carl Scott, but it was mostly Sean Desai. And then the reason that we really got him in the building was Pete Carroll's like, yeah, you'll be the assistant head coach, and you'll help Clint Hurt run the defense. And if you want to stay, you can. But if you have an opportunity in the future, you can go. Otherwise, you can stay here till I retire, and then you have an opportunity to take over the head coaching position in the future. So it was like a big opportunity for Sean Desai. Do you want to stay here? Do you want to build a defense? You can then leave if you want to. So it was just like, come to Seattle, please. So he did. Comes to Seattle, builds a bad defense with Clint Hurt. But it's supposed to be like, yeah, we're just trying this out. And as we've seen, it hasn't worked well for the Seahawks, this Vic Fangio system. Whatever he built with Clint Hurt has not set our defensive backs up for success. So he goes to the Eagles, who had a really good defense last year, and they have really good players. In fact, Darius Slay, their cornerback, had one of his best career years ever last year. It was amazing. So he goes from like the Bears, who they had a okay defensive year, to, hey, we're going to inherit this Vic Fangio system, to Seattle. Has like Woolen come in, right? So like, oh, maybe he can coach up good defensive backs too. Was that Pete Carroll? Was that Sean Desai? We don't know. But then he goes to the Eagles, who should have better talent than the Seahawks. Already proven talent. And their defensive line is really good. They're clearly investing in the defensive line. And they got health back because there's some players that were hurt last year. And then they brought in like Ndamukong Suh and one other. I don't remember his name. Linval Joseph, maybe? I don't remember. Brought in some meat. And then health came back, drafted Jalen Carter. So they're invested in the defensive line. But what happened to the defensive backfield, which is supposed to be Sean Desai's baby? I want to look at that. The Cowboys actually just did a scattering report before that last game. And apparently the secondary has been an issue. Slay, he's allowed a 72% completion rate, which is the fourth highest among qualifying corners. Their other corner, Bradbury, he's allowing a 116.3 passer rating, which is the 13th highest allowed in the league. And then their other corner, Josh Jobe, who was forced into action when their other corner was injured, so this is their fourth string cornerback, is just behind Bradbury with a 113.1 passer rating. And then he was benched by a rookie who's their fifth string cornerback named Sidney Brown. So and he's their slot corner. This will be his third start against the Seahawks. So they're not doing great. they're not doing great on the defensive backfield. You went from one of the best defensive backfields in the league to they're falling apart. So if you're worried about Drew Lock not being able to get the ball to DK Metcalf, and to JSN and Tyler Lockett, I think we're going to be okay. Now, to be granted, the last 2 weeks, they've played Dak Prescott and they've played the 49ers. So that does sway things, but it doesn't sway it that much because that's the entire season. And I would also note that with the Sean Desai system, it's a spread scheme like what we run. You got all these defensive backs out there, and you got the defensive line doing a bunch of work in the middle. And yeah, he's supposed to be sending safeties and he's supposed to be sending cats, but he's not doing that this year. And when he does do that, is Drew Lock going to be smart enough to pick up the blitz? Because when you send the cat, suddenly there's a big spot open where that corner was. The slot, if he sends the slot, then you just, hit JSN on a stick route, and then he goes and picks up some yak. So we might just see that. Now, they're pretty good at stopping the run. The Eagles' defensive front and their linebackers, great. Their front seven, they're going to stop the run. But we don't really run the ball. We're terrible at running the ball. And it's not necessarily because we're bad when we do it. Kenneth Walker is average when we do it. And Ben Baldwin on Twitter pointed it out that our entire team has an average EPA when running the ball. But he's failing to point out that Kenneth Walker has the majority of those runs. And that's pulling our EPA down. Zach Charbonnet has a high EPA when he's running the ball. So if you take out the Kenneth runs, who's probably going to be out because he just fucked up his knee again, and Zach Charbonnet is going to be our starting runner, our EPA will be fine. But even if he's not running the ball against the Eagles, we might be okay, offensive-wise. Now, I still would expect the Eagles, despite them having a bad defense, backfield-wise, to get an interception. Because as we've seen, the play calls don't put our quarterbacks in good positions. And if Drew Lock is in there, he makes under pressure decisions. I'm not calling him dumb. Some people call him dumb. They say he doesn't have enough brain cells up there. Have you tried throwing under pressure? It's hard to play quarterback in the NFL. And so I'm going to say hey, if he's, I said he pulled a Dan Orlovsky when he passes the line of scrimmage instead of picking up 5 yards and then he tries to throw to a guy who's covered, right? It's a dumb decision, right? But the rest of the plays that he was making when he's throwing and stuff, it's hard to play football. So, give him some grace. He was making some really good decisions in the pocket, the way he's escaping and moving around. So give him some grace. But he could still definitely throw an interception against Darius Slay, who is having a bad year, but he's still Darius Slay. And I think Sean Desai might be putting him in bad situations. That being said, we have enough skill position talent in our wide receiving core, and our tackles are good enough. I'm not talking about the interior pass blocking. I'm talking about our tackles. And our tackles are most important for getting the quarterback set up to complete deep passing routes. If our tackles can hold Drew so he can reach his 7th step and then deliver that ball on time, he might be able to dice up this Eagles secondary and put up 21 plus points. Yes, that's dicing for Drew Lock. That's good if we can put up 21 plus points on this Eagles team. I'm not talking win or loss. I'm trying to set reasonable expectations for this quarterback and for this team right now. I'd like to see it. Let's see if our tackles can set our quarterback up success on the 7th step and the 5th step. But in particular, I want to see him have success on the 7th step against this secondary. Because I don't think, because of the defensive front, he's going to have much success on the 3rd step. And the 5th step's going to be something where you need to set it up with play action. So we need to run the ball. And last week, Pete Carroll said he wanted to run the ball 30 times. Didn't happen. But I would like to see a run-heavy attack too. I just don't think it's going to happen against this Eagles front. And we haven't seen it happen all year. So unless something just flips a switch, it's just I don't expect it. So I'm not going to request it. And frankly, against this Vic Fangio style Sean Desai defense and what we've seen in Seattle, it might be more beneficial to just throw the ball. On to the offense. So the Eagles, they have a new offensive coordinator this year, Brian Johnson. And he's kind of just doing the same thing as last year. You got a solid offensive line. And they're in particular running Dre pointed this out actually in the chat, and I don't think that they're still here. They said, let's go Ravens AFC. And I like to talk about heritage. The Ravens with Lamar Jackson, they run something called the QB bash play. So you're familiar with run pass option, RPOs, and if you aren't, quarterback holds the ball, running back comes in, and then you're looking typically at on your left side, off the left side tackle, and there's an unblocked defender. The left tackle is actually focused inside. So you have your right end crashing. It's on the left side, but we call it the right end because when the defense is flipped, it's on the right side. So the right end, but you're looking at it on the left tackle, is crashing, and you need to try to fool. So the quarterback is watching while holding this ball. And you need to see, is the right end going to crash on me, the quarterback, thinking that I have the ball, or is he crashing on the halfback, thinking that I've handed the ball off to the halfback? Run pass option. Meaning, do I have the option to hand the ball off to the runner, or I have the option to keep it and pass, or I have the option to keep the ball myself and run it? It all depends on what that guy on the corner commits to. And so you got to fool him because there's a millisecond where the quarterback doesn't even know what he's going to do. Nobody knows what the play is going to be. The defense doesn't know. The offensive coordinator doesn't know. The offensive line doesn't know. Halfback doesn't know. Quarterback doesn't know. They just know that there's this brief instant where the halfback is literally kissing the ball. The quarterback is still holding the ball, and the the right end knows the ball has been hiked. It's in the quarterback's hand, and I have to make the split-second decision right now, either to freeze up, in which case the quarterback is going to probably keep the ball, and then I'm going to not have momentum to crash on him, and he's going to move, or I'm going to plow right at the quarterback, in which case he's going to hand off to the running back and I'm going to have the wrong angle, or I'm going to run right at the running back, in which case he's going to keep the ball and then run right past me because I got the wrong angle, or there's so much chaos. So then that's been established in college for a long time, and then we know this from Cam Newton, RG3, Russell Wilson, and then all these other quarterbacks that have come since. But Lamar Jackson in particular, his offense had the QB bash. And the QB bash is where you take your tackle and your guard and you run the RPO And while you're doing that, the tackle and the guard are pulling in that direction. So while this right end is crashing, or while this left end is crashing, the opposite tackle and guard are pulling into his face. So he's having to make this decision while all of this weight is just at him. And it creates this big weight disadvantage. And sometimes it goes the other way, where that left tackle and that left guard on his side are just gone, and there's all this empty space. And the quarterback is going that way anyways, and the halfback is acting as the fullback and just gets in the way. And it's beautiful play design because it's a power play. QB bash. Lamar Jackson runs that all the time because running plays are math plays. If we get more numbers on this side and we get more weight on this side, we should be able to pick up a bunch of yards if we read it right and we play it right. And when you look at last week against the 49ers, how is Christian McCaffrey beating us? Well, they were playing on the blind hash mark, and then they would throw a toss play. And on the toss play to the blind side, you had the guards and everybody, often Trent Williams, the left tackle, pulling to the left side. And when you pulled to the left side, it created, the old Vince Lombardi, you create this lane. And when you create this lane for the backs, then he just needs to run up straight through the center of this lane. And then you just go straight up through and you pick up a bunch of yards, and then he just has a one-on-one with the safety. And then what did we see with Jamal Adams on that first play? Was him missing the safety? Was him over pursuing the route? Pete Carroll said that they had been practicing against that toss play all week, and Jamal Adams knew what it was. Everyone knows what it is. The thing is, can you beat it? Most running plays, everyone knows exactly what you're doing. But the thing is, it's designed to beat people who know exactly what you're doing. It's sparring. And we're just going to do it better than you. And so when he over pursued it, 72-yard run. And so with this QB bash play, it's the same type of thing as the toss play to McCaffrey. You need to play the same type of defensive football, which is you just need to be disciplined and patient. You need to watch, and then you need to make the right read and go for it. And as LJ said, an Eagles fan, they're coming for this dub. I think they are coming for the dub. And I don't think it's going to be them passing the ball to, A.J. Brown is going to get that yards. I don't think we're going to stop this QB bash play. I think Jalen Hurts is going to run all fucking over us because we are so undisciplined on those outside plays. And I think this is a get-right game for the Eagles, and this is supposed to be our get-right game for us. But the Eagles want it more. And they're the more disciplined team. And sure, I could talk about A.J. Brown's route running ability and all that stuff, but it's not really worth it at this point. Because what makes this team hum is they spread everything out, right? And then they get these verticals going, and then they have the offensive line beat the fuck out of you, which is great, right? They do these power plays on the outside, and then when you get up close to the line, remember what I said, if you can get 3 yards no matter what every single play, by the time you get to 4th down, you have like 1 yard to gain. And then what do? They call it the brotherly shove because it's the city of brotherly love. Everyone else calls it the tush push because they're stupid. And I call it the QB drive because they're driving the quarterback up the A gap. It's not a QB sneak. They're driving the quarterback up it. So they're just going to beat us 4 downs in a row if we even are able to stop the QB drive. And it could be a great game if Drew Lock is able to throw the ball on Darius Slay and Bradford and company. Bradford? That's not right. Bradford's our right guard. Bradbury. But as LJ said, we have owned them in the past. But that was with you had a Carson Wentz starting, and you had that him getting injured repeatedly, and then this ancient 40-year-old quarterback who was retired teaching high school football come in and then play his first playoff game ever against us. I don't think you guys ever had fair competition in the playoffs, where right now you have a team that I'm not saying your quarterback is necessarily elite. No offense, but I think that the way he's used is elite, which makes him a dangerous threat in every single way. I think his footwork still needs work in the passing game, and once he reaches that level of elite footwork, he will be an elite quarterback, passing wise and all of that. But the way he's utilized right now, his contract, it's a scary team. And what's hurting this Eagles team right now is Sean Desai and the way that he's using the defensive backs. So if we're going to trap this Eagles team, it's going to be Eagles making mistakes in the run game, us actually playing fundamental football for the first time all season, and I don't see it coming. And then it's going to be, us shredding their defensive backs, which apparently they've been bad all season. So that's our only opportunity. But their defensive front is so good that they could just sack the living hell out of Drew Lock. And we could constantly be in bad situations because we're just so undisciplined. And as LJ has commented again, we've been keeping up with your squad this season. You guys have some building blocks. What's your take on quarterback moving forward? Stick with Geno or grab someone else? So Geno Smith is currently on technically on a 1-year contract with the option to pick it up. If we pick it up, we pay $32 million next year, guaranteed, and $32 million the year after. I think part of the reason why he's so frustrated this year is because if he played really well this year, his contract would be picked up. And if he's dropped, at the very least, he'd be picked up somewhere else. If we don't make the playoffs, there's a chance that we might just get rid of him and a bunch of other players. Drew Lock definitely won't be our replacement quarterback, which is a lot of what Seahawks fans have wanted. Some Seahawks fans are saying we want the Washington Huskies quarterbacks, Michael Penix. The biggest problem with Geno Smith this year is week 1, we lost both of our tackles. And then we had to sign a 41-year-old tackle to start because that's what our tackle room situation was. So he was under constant pressure. Our offensive coordinator is having him throw a hot route to an out route, so he keeps getting picked off on that. But his footwork is sound. His decision making is sound. He's a good journeyman. He's like a Ryan Fitzpatrick quarterback, where you might not necessarily be able to have him be the type of quarterback that's going to lead your team to victory. But like you said, we got good pieces around him. He just needs a better coach, and he needs a better system around him. If he was on this 49ers team, he might not be as effective as Brock Purdy, but they would still be winning just as many games because he's a really good quarterback. And they got a good offensive coordinator over there in the 49ers. And I think he would be more effective with them than Jimmy Garoppolo was. But, and especially considering where his contract was compared to Jimmy Garoppolo's. So if he's not on the Seahawks anymore, I could see him going to the Vikings, who are trying to move on from Kirk Cousins contract-wise. His contract could be delicious to some GM who wants a journeyman and doesn't have a quarterback yet, right? The problem is if we pick up his contract, do the Seahawk fans and the organization, do they want to commit to the 32 guarantee this year and next year? I think we've seen him battle really well through injuries. The type of injuries he had aren't like, they're like soft tissue, or they're issues where, you know, his arm got clotheslined while Aaron Donald was throwing him to the ground. So it's not like Tony Romo having his collarbone broken, where once that thing's broken, it's going to break again, you know? So it's not something where you have to really be concerned about his health moving forward. It's purely, how do you want to invest in your future? And so that's the big question. Is we have our left guard Damian Lewis. We probably want to extend him for the future because his contract's coming up. We have Noah Fant, our second string tight end that we traded from Denver. Do we want to extend him? Tyler Lockett is starting to reach the twilight years of his career. He's probably done. We're not sure. Do we want to release him or let him retire? He seems more interested in real estate. Will Dissly, we signed him last year for a big deal because he's a good blocker. But then as we've seen these last couple weeks, his usage is going down and Noah Fant's usage is going up. So are we planning on letting Will Dissly go and then switch to Noah Fant? So it depends on what the identity of the team is going to be. Is Shane Waldron going to be around? And are we going to keep the spread attack, or are we going to go back to a heavy running attack? I don't know. Geno Smith is good at this spread scheme. And it's hard to say. I think the best decision for the Seahawks moving forward is to keep Geno Smith as the veteran, because it's only a 2-year contract. $32 million next year, $32 the following year. It's really not that much, especially considering how the NFL cap is increasing about $10 million every single year. It's nothing. So anyone who's really upset about him, it's not like he's playing trash football, and it's not like he's getting knocked out of the season every year like Sam Bradford. So as far as him being a quarterback moving forward you sign him, you keep him, you make him your Alex Smith for the potential replacement quarterback. Not saying the replacement quarterback's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but it looks like the Seahawks are going to have a top 10 draft pick this year, which I want them to spend on a safety so we can replace Quandre Diggs and possibly move on from Jamal Adams. But if there's a good quarterback in the top 10 still available, then yeah, we draft that guy. Geno Smith is our starter. We pay him 32, then 32, and then probably that following year of the 32 contract, he gets benched or replaced or traded, and then we start his backup. Basically, we want him to be the overstudy, and we have an understudy learning from him. I hope that answers your question. I think that's all I have for this Eagles game for now, unless you have any other questions. I don't think there's really a way that we're going to stop the brotherly shove, the QB drive. Again, it's just a matter of discipline, but that's a weight problem, not a leverage problem. Oftentimes with the QB sneak and a lot of A drives, it's low man wins. But in this case, low man wins. The low man gets pushed down. It's pancaked. So it's a weight problem where you need to be able to shore it up. And it's like if anyone's ever been at a death metal concert, it's the wall of death. That's what that play is. If you ever go to a metal show, the MC will show up and they'll be like, "All right, you motherfuckers, half of you go over there, half of you go over there," and then the crowd will part like a wave, like the Red Sea in Moses. There'll be all this empty space, and there'll be thousands of people just spread apart. And then he'll be like, on the count of 3 or whatever, I want you guys to sprint at each other as fast as you can. And then there'll just be this wave of human mass as these hundreds or thousands of people will just clap into each other, throwing fists, cracked skulls. Sometimes people die in these things, but it's all for fun. It's to get all this angst out. And oftentimes people will reach down and pull up bodies that are to keep people from being stampeded to death. But the brotherly shove is just a wall of death with like 11 people where they're just trying to shove humanity over. And the Eagles are so much better at shoving it because they just have a math win where these guys are like 325 pounds because they're offensive linemen. And then the defensive linemen they're playing against are 290. Because they're built to be pass rushers and more versatile and spreading around, and so they're going to win because of simple math. And I don't think you can beat that play as it stands when that offensive line is most disciplined. So we've seen some defenses attempt to jump, and it's a matter of not low man wins. It's a matter of high man wins, and it's a matter of stonewalling leverage. That's why it's so hard. So, and this is why I've said we need a war daddy on our defense, and we don't have one. We don't have a Linval Joseph. We don't have an Ndamukong Suh that's 340 pounds. We don't have that Eagles player, what was his name, who, after we beat him in the Super Bowl, he comes back to play us, and he's literally, he was 340 pounds at camp, but he played us way bigger. Knightley, I think his name. The dude was awesome. I got another question from LJ. Between DK, JSN, Walker, and Charbonnet, you guys are going to be good for years to come. Thanks again for engaging, and keep up the good work. Good luck on Monday. Hey, thanks LJ. I appreciate it. You guys are a really cool team. What's cool about you guys is that you're technically an old roster. Like, your players have been around forever, but you're a developmental team. You have, I've talked about this a lot, where you have overstudies and then you have understudies. So whenever you have an overstudy that's time to retire, you have an understudy come in and become the overstudy. Meaning you have Lane Johnson, your right tackle. He's a teacher, so he's the overstudy. And all the tackles underneath him are constantly learning how to play football because he's a teacher. And so when he finally will retire, you're going to have just all these other players underneath who already know how to play a game and teach other people how to play a game. So I really like your team. I like your fans because of how engaged they are and how smart they are. So it's a smart team. It's a smart fan base. I really like Philly. It's cool. So I appreciate that you came in to check out the stream, that you liked the stream. Good luck to you guys on Monday too. Good luck to you guys on this season. I think you guys got screwed in the Super Bowl. I think the 49ers are going to win this Super Bowl, but I hope you beat them and go to the Super Bowl this year. So if anyone else enjoyed this stream, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. It would help out First Kick Seahawks and everything I'm trying to do here. I am going to try to be back again tomorrow. It depends on how my health is doing, but tomorrow I want to focus more on the players and how they're going to respond to this week. I definitely want to focus on Jamal Adams and Bobby Wagner, and we'll see how we go from there. So you all be well, and I will catch you around. Thank you so much for being here.